When you were a kid, summer felt endless. A single day could feel huge. A weekend felt like a whole chapter of your life. A school year felt like it lasted forever. And waiting for your birthday felt almost impossible. But now, weeks disappear. Months blur together. A whole year can pass and somehow feel like nothing happened. You look at the calendar and think, how is it already June? How is it already Christmas? How am I already this old? Most people assume the answer is simple. Life gets busier. You have more responsibilities, work makes every day feel the same, and that's partially true, but it's not the full answer. Because time itself did not speed up. Your brain changed the way it records your life. And the reason childhood felt longer is not because children have more time, it's because children experience more of it. To understand why, you have to start with something strange. Your brain does not measure time like a clock. A clock measures seconds, perfectly, evenly, one after another, but your brain does not care about seconds. Your brain measures change, newness, emotion, attention, memory. That's why 5 minutes can feel completely different depending on what is happening. 5 minutes waiting in line can feel long, 5 minutes watching a good video can disappear, 5 minutes in danger can feel like slow motion, 5 minutes laughing with friends can feel like nothing. The clock says all of those are the same, but your brain says they are not, because your brain is not recording time, it's recording experience. And when you are a child, almost everything is an experience. The first time you ride a bike, the first time you sleep over at someone else's house, the first time you go to school, the first time you get in trouble, the first time you see the ocean, the first time you realize adults did not know everything. Childhood is full of first. And first take up space in memory. They are bright, detailed, emotional. They stand out. But adulthood is different. By the time you are older, you've already seen most ordinary things. You've already driven down thousands of roads, eaten thousands of meals, had thousands of conversations, woken up thousands of mornings, gone through thousands of routines, so your brain stops recording every single detail. It compresses. It summarizes. It says, I already know this, and then it flies the day away. Almost empty. That is why a childhood summer can feel massive in memory. It was filled with novelty, new places, new people, new emotions, new fears, new games, new rules, and new versions of yourself. But an adult month can disappear because most of it was repetition. Wake up, check your phone, get ready, drive the same route, do the same work, eat something familiar, scroll, sleep, repeat. Your brain does not need to store the same day 30 times, so it does not. It blends them together, and when you look back, there is almost nothing to grab onto. That is the first reason time feels faster as you get older. Not because time changed, because your memories became thinner. Think about your last normal Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday, not a birthday, not a trip, just a regular Tuesday. What do you actually remember? Probably not much. Maybe a few messages, maybe what you ate, maybe one conversation, maybe nothing at all. Now think about a random day from childhood, a field trip, a pool day, a sleepover, a morning before school, a time you got embarrassed in class. Somehow, those tiny moments can feel more alive than entire months of your adult life. That is because memory changes the shape of time. When your brain stores more details, the past feels longer. When your brain stores fewer details, the past collapses. This creates a strange illusion. In the moment, boring days feel slow, but later, they vanish. Exciting days feel fast while they're happening, but later, they'll feel huge. A vacation flies by when you're living it, but when you look back, it feels longer than the month before it. Because your brain recorded more sights, more decisions, more emotions, more changes. Memory stretches it out afterward. Routine does the opposite. Routine makes life feel easy while it's happening. But it makes time disappear. When you look back, this is why childhood feels so long. It was not just longer, it was denser. Every year contained new information than your brain could easily compress. But there's another reason, and it's even simpler. When you were 5 years old, 1 year is 20% of your entire life. That is enormous. One summer is a major piece of everything you've ever experienced. But when you are 25, 1 year is only 4% of your life. When you're 50, it is 2%. So every year you live becomes a smaller fraction of the life behind you. This is called proportional time, and it might be one reason each year feels shorter than the last. To a child, a year is massive. To an adult, a year is just another layer on top of many others. That is why waiting felt so painful when we were so young. A week before Christmas felt unbearable. A month until summer felt impossible. A year until you could drive felt like another lifetime, because compared to your whole life, it kind of was. But now, a year can pass before you even adjust to it. You get used to writing one date and suddenly it is wrong. You think something happened recently, then you realize it was 3 years ago. You talk about a few years back, and it was actually 10. Your sense of time is not broken, it is aging with you. But proportional time still does not explain everything. Because there is another thing children have that adults slowly lose: attention. Children are forced to notice the world, not because they are trying to be mindful, but because they do not understand it yet. A child walking through a grocery store is not just buying food, they are seeing colors, packages, strangers, sounds, smells, bright lights, weird objects, rules that they don't understand. A child sitting in the back seat of a car is not just commuting, they are watching clouds, counting signs, looking at houses, imagining lives inside of them, feeling the turn of the road, asking where the moon goes when the sun comes up. A child's world is not ordinary yet, it is alive. But adults learn to ignore almost everything. That is not a flaw, it is efficiency. Your brain cannot treat every grocery trip like a magical event. You would never get anything done. So it filters, it predicts, it skips. It says, I've seen this before, no need to pay attention. And slowly the world becomes background. You stop noticing the shape of your own street, the feeling of morning air, the exact color of the sky, the faces of people you pass, the small changes in the places you see every day. You are there, but not fully. And time passes through the parts of life you don't notice. This may be the saddest part of growing up. Not that time moves faster, but that you stop being surprised by being alive. A child can spend 10 minutes watching an ant carry something across the ground. An adult sees the same ant and keeps walking. A child can turn a stick into a sword, a magic wand, a fishing pole, or a spaceship. An adult sees a stick. A child can look at an empty field and see a world. An adult just sees land. The child is not living in a different universe, they are living with a different level of attention, and attention is one of the ingredients that makes time feel real. But when school ends, work begins. Responsibilities pile up, and life becomes structured around repetition. Wake up at the same time, go to the same place, see the same people, answer the same messages, drive the same roads, think the same thoughts. At first, routine feels comforting. Then it starts to erase time. Because when every day resembles the day before it, your brain stops separating them. Monday becomes Tuesday, Tuesday becomes Thursday, January becomes March, March becomes August, and suddenly you are standing in December wondering where the year went. But here's the strange part. You can slow time down again. Not literally. You cannot make the clock move slower, but you can make your brain record more life. And the way to do that is not complicated. Do new things, go somewhere you've never gone, take a different route home, learn something difficult, meet new people, break a routine, put yourself in situations your brain cannot predict. Because novelty forces memory. When your brain does not know what will happen next, it pays attention. And when it pays attention, times become thicker. This is why travel feels so memorable. A 3-day trip can feel longer in memory than 3 normal weeks. Because your brain has to wake up. Where are we? What is that? How did we get here? What is that smell? Who are these people? What happens next? Newness slows time down because it makes the brain work. But you do not need to travel across the world. You just need to stop letting every day become a copy of the last one. I know that is harder than it sounds because modern life is designed to make time disappear. Your phone eats the empty spaces, your routine eats the weekdays, your responsibilities eat your attention, an algorithm gives you a feeling of activity without leaving much memory behind. You could scroll for 2 hours and remember almost nothing because your brain was stimulated but not changed. That may be why time feels so strange now. We are constantly entertained, but not always deeply present. We are seeing more content than humans in history, but somehow many days leave no trace, because not all stimulation becomes memory. A video disappears, a notification disappears, a feed refreshes, and the day goes with it. Childhood felt slower because childhood forced presence. You had fewer escapes, you had to wait, you had to be bored, you had to look around, you had to invent things, you had to feel time passing, and because you felt it, your brain kept it. So maybe the reason life feels faster now is not just age. Maybe it is also avoidance. We do not let time sit still anymore. Every quiet sound gets filled, every line becomes a scroll. Every awkward pause becomes a screen. Every boring night becomes background noise. And when there are no empty spaces, there is less room for memory to form. This is why the past can feel like it's disappearing behind you. Not because you are losing your life, but because your brain is being given fewer moments worth saving. The good news is, this means time is not completely gone. You could still make parts of life feel longer. You could still create memories that stretch. You could still surprise your brain. You could still pay attention like you did when you were young, but you have to do it on purpose now. As a child, the world made itself new. As an adult, you have to make everything new yourself. That might mean learning a skill you are bad at, having a real conversation instead of checking your phone, going outside without headphones, sitting in silence for once, visiting a place nearby you've never bothered to see, changing your routine just enough that your brain stops sleeping through it. Because the goal is not to become a child again. You cannot go back, but you can recover one thing that childhood had: attention. The feeling that the world is not finished, there are still things worth noticing. A day does not have to vanish just because it is ordinary. So why did time feel slower when you were a kid? Because your brain was recording more of it. Because your life was filled with first. Because every year was a huge fraction of your existence. Because you had less routine, because you paid attention before the world became familiar, and because boredom had not yet been replaced by constant distraction. Your childhood did not last forever, it only felt like it did, because back then your brain was awake for more of your life, and maybe that is the real fear behind growing up. Not that time is moving faster, but that we are noticing less of it as it passes. So the next time you feel like the year is disappearing, do not just ask where the time went. Ask what your brain was given to remember, because time does not only live on clocks, it lives in attention, in memory, in novelty, in the moments that interrupt the blur. And if your days feel like they are moving too fast, maybe the answer is not to chase more time, maybe it is to make the time you already have harder to forget.